All right, Path of Exile 2 Dawn of the Hunt has launched, and honestly, this is one of the worst experiences I've ever had playing a campaign from, Path of Exile between 1 and 2. And for context, I have 2,000 hours in Path of Exile 1 and 250 in Path of Exile 2. So I'm not a casual by any means. So, yeah, it was just a struggle. It wasn't difficult, it was tedious. And there's a few reasons for that. Now, before I get into it, I will mention two things that GGG did better. And that is strong boxes, they're more abundant and they're worth more, like it's actually worth doing them. And essences are more abundant. However, in the campaign, these are how many I walked out with. What is that, like about 12 or so from a quick glance? So it's not game changing to say the least. Um, Now, as far as why it felt tedious, it's tough to say. I think the novelty from point one wore off. So Act One, you start as like a weak character and you build up that slight power fantasy. You take care of Geonor, and it's perfect, right? The layouts are good. I think even while some of them are kind of larger, they're open ended to where you're not like trying to go through a maze and whatnot. But then you hit Act Two, and it's kind of like a kick in the nuts, right? Like the difficulty comes up a little bit, which is fine, but I don't think the player matches that like difficulty. And because monsters got didn't get nerfed, and you the player did, most of the meta stuff was nerfed, which is fine, but nothing was done in like to compensate that. Minions were gutted, and they've done patches, they nerfed monster life and whatnot. But on launch, it was it was abysmal. And like nothing has changed like in the campaign to make it more enjoyable to run through. You're just running through these long corridors and maze like maps, and it's not fun. Like Act 3 is a big issue because it's almost like two acts in itself. Like these zones are massive. Like you're taking 30 to 45 minutes like for a casual player to go through it. Granted, I'm not casual, but if it's taking me like 20 minutes or like whatnot to even just full clear it, which I did fill clear most of my maps just because I wanted to see what the currency looked like because as we remember in point one, the start of it was plagued by not enough currency and then they did some adjustments, but I would argue that the currency that we get now in point two is not much better. And maybe, I mean, granted, it is better, but I don't think it's enough. If they want us to craft our own gear and do all these things, I think they need to give us more resources. And so, like, here, let's take a look, right? So, orbital transmutation, orbital augmentation, that's fine. I have plenty of those. I was using them as I leveled. You get plenty of them. That's a non issue. Orbit chance, whatever, you don't really need to worry about that. However, that one's a natural drop, and I don't even have enough uniques that I found to disenchant to even make another one. But I don't think that's an issue either. I think the issue comes down to the next things. I only dropped two alchemies. I dropped a decent amount of regals. I dropped 12, and then for exalts I dropped 15. But I used them all on my gear, and it wasn't really that great in general. Like my gear is pretty rough. I have a pretty decent wand going for me for my chaos spells, and everything else is kind of questionable. But I made it through the campaign, and the campaign wasn't tough. It was just tedious, like all the running around, and I still think there's a lot of flaws in it. Like whenever you die in an area, even if you hit a waypoint, it respawns all the enemies. Like I don't think there's any need for that. Like it makes it more tedious. And it's how some waypoints are. You spawn at a waypoint and there's minions, or not minions, but there's like monsters that spawn behind you. The one that comes to mind is in the Utsal area where there's like the trial master, like the free trial master token you can grab, or what the you know what I'm talking about. But basically, you picked it up, and if you die, when you respawn, there's a couple monsters that spawn behind you, and there's monsters that spawn in front of you. It's not an issue; you can kill them, but if you end up dying, that's kind of it doesn't make any sense to make them respawn, in my opinion. Um, Another issue that I have is the lack of respec of ascendancies. So I originally started this as a huntress and made it to Act Two, and then I decided to re-roll as a different character because it just wasn't fun. I didn't really grasp what made Huntress fun. You could say skill issue, you can say whatever, but I just wasn't having fun. I re-rolled to a Chaos Dot Witch, and by like level 7, I was doing more DPS, and that was fun. So I went as a Lich, but here's the thing is, so since I became a Lich, I have no way to like swap my ascendancy. So if I want to do like a pure minion build, you can technically still do Lich, but what if I want to go like spirit stacking with the Infernalist, or if I want to do like crit elemental bleed shenanigans, I would have to go Blood Mage, right? So it's like I don't think there's any reason to keep us from respecking, because like do they really expect us, like if we want to try each character, that we have to roll a whole new witch each time and get to the end game level 64 is you're going to be your first map level 65 in there, and they expect that every time? Like that's a lot to ask for a normal player, and not even to mention like people that are like just above normal. Like I'm not the casual player, I put a lot of time into this. But, you know, are they just expecting players to just play one character and be done? Like that's kind of crazy, right? Like if you want people to reach the end game, something has to change, right? Either make the campaign shorter or make the campaign like not as just dull. And like adding more waypoints isn't the fix. I think there's a fundamental flaw in just the pacing of the game, and it feels artificial. Like the zones are way larger than they need to be. Like literally all of Act 3 is just too big for its own good. And then like the character speed too. Like I actually ran with I think they're called gamble sprint. Yeah, I ran with these boots the whole game basically up until the like final two areas just because the I couldn't find any boots with speed on them. So having conditional 0 to 40% increased movement speed when I got hit was nice. You know, even though it's conditional, it didn't help my build at all because it's dexterity based. I just put them on just to deal with it, right? Um, you know, and I think another problem is so specters they were just introduced, and of course they're not going to be balanced because it's their first time being in PoE 2. But I think the problem comes in is the spirit costs are all over the place. They don't make any sense. Like they say, oh, we based them on some internal numbers, but okay, let me ask you this. So one crested behemoth, this is the laser triceratops, costs 170 spirit, and I have some spirit on my character's chest piece, and I'm not wielding a scepter, but I don't have enough spirit to wield it. So to have one of these, you need a scepter. However, as is, when I got it at level 35, 36, whatever it was, when I was doing the second trial, I've been closer to 40, I don't remember. But basically, it would be one shot by everything. It couldn't live, it couldn't do anything. And so, with all these specters only being 2 sockets, how are we supposed to test them out with more sockets? Like, it would make more sense if specters, like, they inherited, like, more links. Like, if it was either tied to like if you remember or if you've ever played the Infernalist and you have the like or it works for any class that has this, but when they have a skill that is granted by the ascendancy, the number of sockets scale with your level. And so either do something like that or you can just rebind a specter at will. And so if I wanted to get a cultist archer, I wouldn't have to get a whole new gem because basically each of these are going to take those additional jeweler orbs and you don't have enough to test them. So all my specters this whole playthrough were stuck at 2 sockets, and I don't think that's really, you don't get enough to test them out like that. And maybe that's just like a campaign issue, but it's like if you want to test out something cool, that's like the campaign is the place to do it, right? You want to try new things, you want to see what works out, but you don't really get the tools to do that. And gold respecs are high. Like we have what is it? Respecing my passives cost 1,700 gold a pop. So if I want to respec a whole part of my tree, I'm it's 20, 30,000, and that's not a big deal in the end game, and it scales up through the campaign. But you're never at a point where you have the right combination of gold to respec everything into like a new build in the campaign, or at the same time you don't have enough to gamble with Alva, and you're like, okay, cool, I want a new whatever, like a new amulet for me right now is going to cost me 19,000 gold at the end of the campaign, and it's just like, and it's not even like guaranteed to be a good amulet, which I get that's where the gambling comes in. But imagine you drop like half your gold on a piece of gear and like in the campaign, and then you just get like a blue item with like one or two like modifiers on it. Then you have to use your currency, throw it on it, and there's no even guarantee it's going to be good. And that's what happened to most of my regals and my exalts and everything is from the vendors I'd buy from them, try to slam something on it, and I either get like stun threshold or stuff that just didn't matter, like life regen to my character, and it just kind of felt bad. Like it just didn't feel great. And like I haven't really been seeing many like socketed items that I could like take in vendor and like or whatever it's called, disenchant to get the fragments. And I just have 3 artifice orbs and I saved them because I don't want to put it on something that I'm going to find a replacement for. And it's just I feel like the currency is like in a mix match. Like, do you like if they want people to enjoy the campaign? Do we say, hey, the exalts and regals are enough to buy gear, but it's like okay, but the like I don't know. It's just if you're playing as a casual player, you're not gonna go through the effort of trading on the trading site and saying, hey, I can get this for my gear. No, you're gonna like they're gonna be slamming their exalts, the regals, and whatnot. Like it's almost like SSF, which is fine, but like are the drops enough? Like I don't feel like I had meaningful drops in the campaign. Like a good example is I found this wand from the one of the vendors and I slammed it like 3 times, and I got the crit hit chance, which doesn't matter, the mana and whatnot, which it is what it is. But I luckily got +3 to all levels chaos spells, But like I wouldn't say this was a meaningful drop. I just slammed currency and hope for the best. And that's an issue with the crafting system. Now they added some new stuff in the end game, like they brought back fracturing orbs and all this other stuff, and you can recombinate. So maybe there's that's solved in the end game. But as it stands right now, the campaign is just it's kind of lost its charm. Like the first time, like the areas are gorgeous. Don't get me wrong; they look great for an ARPG. But the fun factor for me isn't there. Like I'm gonna push through the maps and like hopefully this is a lot more fun. But as it stands now, I can't really recommend anyone re-roll another character. Or like, hey, you're gonna like you might love the campaign your first time through, but are you willing to sit through it to play through it again? And you can also argue like, oh, once you go through it once, you can just buy new gear and whatnot. But it's like, okay, sure, but you're still going through all the same issues you had before. And yeah, it is a beta. We're testing these things out for GGG, but I feel like there's a lot of things that are just missing the mark, right? Like I enjoyed the first League launch. I had my own like made like a self-made minion build. Everything went great. I re-rolled a couple times, and I didn't have an issue. But it just feels like everything is so much harder, or not even hard. Like you just don't do enough damage. Like they want the game to be slower, but at the same time, like nothing around us moves slower. Like the speed of the enemies that we go against are severely overtuned, I think. Like there's some monsters that are really slow, cool. But then like in the campaign, if you find a rare with mana siphon and it's one of the faster enemies, like the ones in Exile or the one of the crawler enemies in like the Val like zones, I forgot the name of it. But they just run you down, and if you're a caster and you need to use mana, you're just screwed. There's nothing you can do. You're just dead. And because I couldn't find movement speed because we're so slow, and I was using those boots, I was a gamble each time I got hit. There's times when I had 0 to 5 plus movement speed added to it, and I just can't run them, and I just die. And I'm not. It could be a skill issue, but I don't think the campaign is where it should be. Like to me, I don't think too many casuals are going to make it through the campaign into the end game and stay for a very long time. That's my opinion. I could be wrong, but I think a lot of work needs to be done there. And maybe that work is going to be done when they add new acts and whatnot. Maybe it won't feel as like bad if we have acts 4, 5, and 6. But I still think the length is an issue. Like it wouldn't be a big deal if we had meaningful length, but right now it's like artificially inflated. And I think that's my biggest problem is like everything that is a negative is like artificial. It's not a negative because it needs work. It needs work because it's being thrown. Like I don't know what I'm saying is making sense, but like you throw it in there, and it's like that friction. And like another thing is like, what? This actually brings up a good point. I was looking at support gyms, and I think the biggest thing is most of the support gyms have an okay upside, but then you have a really harsh negative. And the one that comes to mind is the minion support gym enormity. And the reason why that comes up is, let me find it real quick. Yeah. So 20% increased size, 20% more damage, and 20% more maximum life for your minions. Sounds good. But here's the problem. It adds an additional 10 spirit flat, which, okay, sure. But then the reservation multiplier is 130%. So you're telling me that to get a little bit more damage, a little bit more life, and increase size, we're like there's no way you could use this unless you're using like a one specter build, or you're stacking spirit. But like to me, like there's so many supports that have like such conditional things or such negatives to it that why would you even use it? Like there's even volatility, and I'm sure there's going to be builds that can use stuff like this, but like volatility is such a weird thing too. Like like you get volatility, just there's just there's so many things that leave me questioning. Like, okay, what are your thoughts on this GGG? Because like the game is so like fast and you're so slow as a player. Like the it just doesn't make sense. Like make it make sense, right? And you have stuff like the blacksmith's hammering, the forge thing where it lasts like 4 hits. It's just like they want the game to be slow and meaningful, or like slow and not slow, but they want meaningful combat. But for who? Us, the player, or the monsters themselves? Because it feels like there was no balance done. And I hate saying all these negative things because I love Path of Exile itself, right? Like there's a lot of good here. Like the skills are cool. The class, the Huntress as the class is a cool addition. We have, what is it, like 5 more coming. like there's a lot of cool things about this game, and but this just I think misses the mark. And I really do hate to say that, and I'm rambling at this point, but tell me what you think down below. And you know what? Until next time, take it easy.